The situation with the Kurds and the whole subject of the Kurdish question has become increasingly more difficult. What we are looking at right now is a situation where Kurdish groups, the Kurdish group in Iraq, the Peshmerga, are now openly killing PKK Kurdish forces from Syria. Now they're fighting in northern Iraq, and essentially you have two Kurdish groups, both which are striving for independence, are now killing each other. Now this would happen given the contradictions of imperialism that are taking place right now. Now, there was an exchange of fire that took place in the Kurdish region of northern Iraq, which resulted in the death of one member of the PKK and one Peshmerga soldier. Now, according to Iraqi Kurdish media, the PKK fighters and vehicles opened fire on a Peshmerga checkpoint in an attempt to breach it. And probably true, what have you. Even if you don't believe that, the main problem here is that Kurdish forces are killing each other. And that's really what needs to be the focus of this. The fact that you have such a marginalized group, such as the Kurds, openly killing each other. Now, this is because of the deteriorating security situation that is taking place in the border between Iraq and Syria, and to a large extent inside of Syria as well, as the Kurdish forces are fighting against Turkish invasion and occupation of Syria's land. Now, this essentially is happening because the PKK or the SDF, etc., many of the Kurdish forces were carrying out U.S. imperialist interests inside of Syria, and that's beyond question at this point. That's exactly what was happening. That's literally what was going on. They were taking money, weapons, training, etc. to literally steal Syrian government land and then exploiting it and then ethnically cleansing it by forcing Arabs to move out at gunpoint. At the same time, you've got Kurds inside of Iraq who are opposed to U.S. occupation. They actually want the U.S. to leave their country and fight against it. And it is suspected, nothing confirmed, that some of those Kurdish forces inside of Iraq have fired missiles, those missiles that have been fired at U.S. bases recently. There's an unconfirmed accusation, but I'm putting it out there that people are saying that. Iraq is trying to deal with its own security situation because there are still ISIS forces in the country that the U.S. have left there, and they're trying to deal with that. Now you've got Kurds from Syria trying to force their way into Iraq as a tactical maneuver to deal with the now Turkish invasion of Syria and occupation of the country. Now, I know what you're saying. Yes, the Kurds aren't exactly in league with the United States anymore. Well, see, that's the problem. The damage is already done. The Kurds are still ethnically cleansing Arab lands. They are still engaging in what it is that the United States wants. The balkanization of Syria, destroy it, steal its oil fields, undermine the government's ability to function, as it is very highly dependent upon oil revenue. So the U.S. got what it wanted. In the end, they just discarded the Kurds when they weren't as useful as they were. Imagine that. It's not like that happened more than once in history, and that you should know by now not to trust the United States. But I digress. And all of this is happening because the Kurds want some form of independence, some kind of intercommunalism, national cultural autonomy, for which you could still have a strong Syrian state with a large representation of Kurdish people with a national cultural autonomy to carry out their culture however they please, etc., which would have been a great solution to the problem. But that has now become even more complicated because of this ongoing situation. And of course, the primary fault of all this is the United States to begin with. But the ones that created the so-called moderate head choppers to go in and break up Syria anyway, which created this whole situation to begin with. So the primary blame of this belongs to U.S. imperialism for trying to knock down what is essentially an anti-imperialist state, in that it's a victim of imperialism, a very large victim of imperialism. But that's what these things lead to. This is why you don't ally with the United States. You could have very easily just worked with the Syrian government to fight ISIS. But it is the way it is, and Kurdish groups have made the decision that they're going to make, or have made the decisions that they've made. And now we're in a situation where there's now Kurds killing Kurds, something that didn't have to happen, and something that shouldn't be happening. But this is what happens when you get in league with U.S. imperialism. This is kind of what happens when you don't have a full united front against imperialism. A pan-third world movement against U.S. imperialism, regardless of whether or not the country is socialist, but just against U.S. imperialism in general, or just imperialism regardless of what country it is what is needed. But they don't see that, because they only see the contradictions with each other. I know I'm kind of asking for a perfect world here, and that's not going to happen. But it's something to think about. Because frankly, this situation where Kurds are killing Kurds, you've got an oppressed group killing literally itself, is frankly unacceptable. This shouldn't be happening. But that's the situation that the Kurds find themselves in today. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.